Hey there, my name is Adam. I'm one of the sourcing and roasting directors here at Utopian Coffee Roasters. Uh, Today, we're going to be discussing in depth the processes necessary to properly clean your cafe's equipment at the end of the day. These processes are very important because it ensures that A, your equipment stays clean and that the coffee tastes good for the consumer the next day, but also very importantly, cleaning is really necessary to maintain the proper functionality of your equipment. Coffee residues can build up in different parts of espresso machines, within grinders, even in a batch brewer. Unnecessary buildup tends to create problems and bad flavors. So today we're going to be going through all the processes and tools I like to use to make sure that your cafe equipment is going to stay the best that it possibly can. In this section of the video, we're going to discuss all the necessary cleaning equipment that we need to properly end our shift at your cafe. As you look to the right of me, we have a few of our necessities. We have Ernix brand products. Most importantly would be Cafiza and tabs. Grinds is useful to an extent, but not completely necessary in my opinion. Other tools that we need to focus on. We need a blind portafilter disc or a back flushing disc. You'll notice that this portafilter disc is interchangeable into other portafilters, but it simply has no holes, which doesn't allow any water to pass through it. This is really helpful for recirculating water back up into the group head with cleaning solution. Next up on our list, we have a group head cleaning brush. This is also exceptionally important to be able to clean the coffee particles and scrub them physically out of the group head of your espresso machine. Next, another incredibly important tool is a short, stubby, flathead screwdriver. This is absolutely necessary to be able to carefully remove the screw that holds the metal dispersion screen or water dispersion screen within the group head. Now, at the end of every day, the group head screen and the screw both need to come out so that they can be properly cleaned in the back flushing process. A microfiber towel is also very helpful. Next, we have a soft bristled paintbrush. This is incredibly useful for very quickly and efficiently keeping your work surfaces clean of coffee grounds, and it helps with cleanup at the end of the day. Next, I like to have either a large cup. You can also use a wide mouth steaming pitcher, just whatever is wide enough to be able to accommodate the width of your portafilter handle so that we can fully submerge and soak in Cafiza cleaning solution. It's very necessary. Another very useful tool is this bottle cleaning brush. These are incredibly helpful for cleaning air pots. The inside of your air pots need to be getting scrubbed. Another little guy here. Does not have to be this exact model. It can be a shop vac, it can be whatever handheld vac works easily, but this is exceptionally useful for getting any errant coffee grounds out of your workstation. And lastly, my favorite little pro tip and trick, a bottle of Windex. You will not believe how incredibly good Windex wipes down stainless steel surfaces. So any milk spots, any espresso stains on your equipment, coffee stains on your batch brewer, you simply grab a microfiber rag, you grab your Windex. Get your rag nice and wet with Windex, you wipe down your equipment, and it will be streak-free and shiny and beautiful every evening so that you're ready for your openers to start off on the best foot possible. All right, well, in my opinion, that is really kind of the bare bones, absolute necessities of what we need for equipment to make sure that our cafe equipment is maintained properly. There are, of course, 1,000 tools for the job, but these here are just the absolute necessities. All right, consider this your starting point. This section, we are going to go over proper grinder cleaning at the end of the day. What we should do with our beans, what we should do with the hopper, how to properly get the last of the coffee out of the grinder, how to properly sweep and clean the grinder and turn it off and put it away beans so that it's good, clean, ready for the evening and ready for tomorrow's rush, right? All right, so let's hop right into it. Let's imagine that we just finished service. Our last customer is left, doors are closed, they're locked, and it's time to tear down for the evening. The very first thing we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna have our brush near us and handy. We're also gonna either grab, say, like a 12-ounce to-go cup, or you can grab an empty milk steaming pitcher. But essentially, what we're gonna do is every grinder, or virtually every grinder, has a hopper slider gate that can close. That will effectively stop the beans from being able to travel into the grinder anymore. So the coffee that is from here and above is going to stay there. And what we have to worry about is inside, from this point down, there are still some trapped coffee beans, and we want to get those out. We don't want those just sitting in there overnight, going stale, and presenting as bad flavors tomorrow morning. So once again, I have closed my hopper slider gate, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the grinding function on the grinder, and I'm going to grind out whatever coffee is left in here. That's one. That's two. And you'll notice as you come in close, you can hear that suddenly the grinder gets much, much quieter as whatever coffee beans were left in here are done and passed through the grinder. And at the very end, you'll notice that just a very, very small amount of coffee is still coming out when the grinder is activated. So I'll activate the grinder 2 or 3 more times just to try and get any of those leftover particles out of the way. Great. Okay, so once again, we have closed the hopper slider gate. We have now ground out any leftover coffee inside the grinder. The next thing is we will take these coffee beans, put them back in proper packaging. We don't want to leave beans in the hopper overnight. These are exposed to moisture, to oxygen, and we don't want that. So we want to put them back in the packaging that they came to you in, which are usually our large 5-pound bags, are resealable. So that's going to be your best storage option. It's just here for modeling purposes. Every grinder is a little different how the hopper comes off. This one is simply a bit of a twisting motion. So we'll just lift the hopper right up, and we will put the beans back in their packaging. Good. Hopper is empty. Now the hopper can go right back on the grinder for the time being. Coffee can get sealed up in its packaging, put back into a safe place to be stored. We'll just set that there for the moment. I do recommend sending your hopper through the dishwasher once a week, just to remove any residual coffee oils that can start to build up on the inside. Like I said, nightly, not necessary, but like once a week, send it through, or very gently hand wash it with some mild dish soap and a gentle rag, and let it air dry. Totally fine. Cool. So coffee is out of the grinder, leftover grounds have been ground out. At this point, obviously this general region is pretty clean for us, but I did not just finish service, right? If you have just finished service, chances are there's coffee grounds everywhere, which is where your broom comes in handy. We start brushing all of our areas to get all these coffee grounds out as best we can. And we can turn the grinder off as well. That's helpful. Good. And we use our broom just to sweep up around our grinding station. Boop. This is, on our grinder, this is just plastic. It can get wiped down or sent through the dishwasher. It doesn't particularly matter. And which in most cafe settings, in a rush, your portafilter will not be perfectly dry every time that you go to grind into it. So you will eventually leave stains and spots on your forks, to which I come back with some Windex on a microfiber rag and just gently wipe everything down. And it will just pull the coffee stains off that in a very, very quick manner. You can also wipe down the rest of the outside of your grinder. But once you have accomplished those tasks, the coffee is out of the grinder. You have ground the last portions of the coffee out of the grinder. You have swept, you have wiped it down and turned it off. That's all you really need to worry about for your grinder. So at that point, we can call that good, and we will move on to the next step. In this section of our cleaning video, we are going to cover proper cleaning procedures for our batch brew equipment, right? And then there's a few tools that we will need to utilize to accomplish this task properly. To my left, we have a microfiber towel. We also have the Windex, which does an incredibly good job at cleaning any stains, any spots, any fingerprints from our stainless steel areas. Can also be used on the outside, only the outside of your air pots. We have tabs, which should be getting utilized every evening within your any air pot that has had coffee in it that day. Right. And then lastly, we have a bottle brush. This is utilized in the morning after these air pots have been soaking overnight with hot water and tabs, cleaning tabs in the morning. And then lastly, you can always use this paintbrush to sweep up any errant coffee grounds that will generally find their way into the general vicinity of this region. Okay, so as we did in the other section, we're going to pretend that we have just finished service and we are ready to now move on to getting our air pots and our batch brewer cleaned up for the evening. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that our basket is empty. We don't want to leave wet coffee grounds in our baskets in between batches, but definitely not overnight, right? The longer you leave coffee inside of here, the faster oils and bad flavors are going to build up inside these baskets. Now, as a good cleaning protocol, I highly suggest that your team cleans these baskets once a week. Mix up a small solution of Cafiza espresso cleaning detergent in hot water and utilize your bottle brush to very vigorously scrub the inside of these baskets and then let them soak and sit with that cleaning solution inside of them for 5 to 10 minutes. Then they can be rinsed with very hot water, and then they're good to go for another week. The next area of concern that we want to focus on our batch brewing equipment is the outside and the spray head of the batch brewer. We want to maintain these and keep these nice and clean as well. I suggest nightly wiping down your machine with some Windex and a microfiber towel. Okay, so that covers the machine and the basket. The next thing we need to focus on are the air pots themselves. The reason that this is so important and why I like to explain it to customers in this way is that really you want to consider the fact that we're holding a hot liquid inside of this vessel for an extended period of time, right? And that is allowing that liquid to deposit oils into the inside of this vessel. But that's also allowing that hot liquid to take up any leftover or residual oils from the previous batch. And over time, that can start to create some very not pleasant off flavors within our coffee. So it serves us best to try and keep our air pots as clean as possible. Steps to do that are definitely rinse with hot water in between batches, right? If once an air pot becomes empty of coffee, don't just put it right back under the brewer and brew again. Be considerate. Give it a good solid rinse with some hot water, dump that out, and then you're ready to brew your next batch, right? Okay, but now we're going to pretend it's the end of the day. So what we need to do is make sure our air pot is empty, which it is, and we then need to utilize our bottle of tabs. And You'll see on the side of the tabs bottle, depending on the volume of liquid or the size of your air pot, is the number of tabs we're going to use. Or how dirty the air pot is can also dictate using a few more tabs. Okay. So I myself tend to prefer to use 2 of these blue tablets for an air pot of this size. And we're just going to drop those right inside. We're then going to put the stem back in so that this is going to retain heat overnight. We're going to put our air pot under our brewer, making sure that our basket is empty. We don't want old coffee grounds accidentally being brewed on top of cleaning liquid. So empty basket. And all we're going to do is initiate our full pot brewing cycle. Make sure that's lined up properly. Now what's going to happen is we are putting 200-degree water directly into our vessel with those cleaning tabs. And that's going to slowly fill this pot up to wherever it's programmed to fill to. And then that cleaning solution is going to have the entire evening to just sit there and work on those coffee oils and any residues that might be trapped inside of there. To which case, we will then come back the next morning before service starts. We will then dump out the air pot fully. We will brush the inside of the air pot thoroughly with our air pot brush, and then we will rinse the inside of the air pot thoroughly with hot water from the nearest kitchen sink. Right, so obviously the batch brewing, this portion of the batch brewing can take 5.5 to 6 minutes, depending on how your machine is programmed. And remember, we want to do this to every air pot that has had coffee in it that day, right? So that they're ready and clean for the next day. And you may find that you have 6, 8 air pots if you're a very busy cafe that need to have this done. So that's why I like to utilize this as a in-between process of after the grinders, but before I start working on the espresso, so that I can be running this and then immediately move on to my actual espresso cleaning portion. So yeah, that's all I have to say on this one. To the final and my favorite portion of cleaning protocols at the end of service. This final step is the step that we can be accomplishing while we are filling our air pots with hot water and the cleaning tabs. It is vitally important that we clean our espresso machine at the end of every day, okay? Ideally at the end of every shift if you have time, but I recognize and realize there are very busy cafes and back flushing in the middle of service is not always achievable. But at minimum, the end of every day, no matter what. If you have used your espresso machine, it needs to be cleaned by the end of the day. We do not want to leave coffee oils trapped inside of this equipment because very quickly it can cause mechanical failures. And it can also contribute really, really bad off flavors to subsequent shots that you would try to pull tomorrow or the day after. All right, so we're going to treat this as we just finished service, and we'll go from there. So my first steps typically will be to utilize my brush and clean our working surfaces, making sure that we're getting rid of any leftover errant coffee grounds that may still be floating around. We can also utilize our hand vacuum, making sure to get nicely under there. Anywhere else we may have dropped coffee. Great. Once we've gotten all of the coffee grounds out of the way, the next thing I like to do is clear any unnecessary devices from the vicinity so I have a little bit of room to work. Okay, so now we're going to utilize that wide mouth cup that I talked about. Now in this cup, we're going to be adding a small amount of kefisa. I would say like about the size of a quarter is usually more than enough for the time being. Okay, so our portafilter will come off. We can take our whole portafilter and the basket and simply set that in this vessel. Next, we're going to utilize our stubby little screwdriver. And if you come and look under here, we have a flathead screw, and then we have a water dispersion screen. Both of these items need to come out of the group head to be cleaned properly in the back flushing process. So I typically like to set down a towel in case they fall down while I'm unscrewing. I utilize my flathead screwdriver to gently unscrew the group head screen. Oh, look at that. Great. So as you can see, this is what I was talking about. We have a screen and a screw. Vitally important not to lose these. But these screens and screws can go right into this largemouth vessel with our portafilter. Okay. From here, we are going to fill up this vessel with some hot water. I suggest just pulling it right from your batch brewer. And we want to make sure that the portafilter is fully submerged. Then, the next step that I like to do is also utilize this same vessel to soak our steam wand tip. And we all know, over the course of a shift, there's a lot of milk being steamed. And every time that steam wand is activated and then turned off, a little bit of that milk gets sucked up inside the steam wand, which is why we purge in between. We purge before and after we steam a pitcher of milk. It is to try and clean the inside of the steam wand and make sure that it stays free of dairy. This is very helpful as well, especially if the end of your steam wand is very scummy and has some crusted on dried milk. This will help strip that off of there and get it right back down to clean bare metal. Once the steam wand is submerged as deep as it can go within this wide mouth vessel, I like to activate the steam wand 3 to 4 times to make sure that that cleaning solution is being pulled up inside the steam wand. There we go. Now we're just going to let this sit for the next 5 or so minutes to really allow that kefisa to do its job, to properly clean everything. Okay, so next on the mission list is we need to begin our back flushing process. But the first step of that, we're going to be utilizing our group head brush. So before we introduce cleaning solution, we want to physically remove as many of the coffee particles on the outside as we can. So I'm going to utilize my cleaning brush and my open vessel of cleaning solution right next to the group head. Oh, look how convenient that is. I'm going to focus on cleaning the gasket in the group head, making sure that that is becoming free of any coffee particles. I'm also going to be scrubbing the center where the water comes out because coffee particles do find their way up in there. We want to get all of this clean. And this, depending on how dirty your equipment is, this may take a minute or two. And then lastly, we're going to turn our brush sideways. We're going to clean these grooves, these travel pathways where the edges of the portafilter lock into the group head, because coffee oftentimes gets trapped in there as well. We're going to very carefully, very thoroughly work our way around the group head. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. The next thing I like to do is we're going to utilize our blind portafilter or back flushing disc. Now, we're going to gently lock that in there for a moment. And we're going to have it very, very loose So it's just barely in place, and we'll activate the group head. We're going to let this fill up with water. We're going to let it gently, we're going to open and close the portafilter slightly to let it gently lose some water or flush some water up and over the side, so that the inside of that group head should now be pretty well rinsed. As you look up in there, we'll see there should not be any major coffee particles still trapped up in there. Okay, the next thing we need is our Cafeza again. And at this point, I typically recommend something around roughly the size of a penny. You can use a little more if it's been an excessively busy shift. More is typically better than less when it comes to cleaning. Okay, so with my back flushing disc and my cleaning solution, I'm going to fully lock this into the group head tightly, and I'm going to activate the machine for 10 seconds. And now I'm going to turn off the machine. Now for those 10 seconds, hot water was flowing into the group head, but it was not able to pass out of the group head. It was simply recirculating, dissolving, and mixing that cleaning solution throughout the group head. Once we turn off the group head, a pressure release solenoid valve opens and allows a portion of that cleaning solution to then travel down a different travel pathway. We have done this, and now we want to let it sit for a couple of minutes, because just like our other equipment, this cleaning solution is not instantaneous. It needs a few minutes to have the chance to break down the oils that are within the equipment. So we ran it for 10 seconds, and now we just let it sit for just a couple of minutes. All the while, we could then be addressing our next air pots that need tabs and water and running through that process. And now we're at the point where I'm pretty comfortable with how long that our steam wand and our other tools have been soaking in the cleaning solution. So we're going to go ahead and remove this from our drip tray to make things a little easier. Now at the end of this soaking process, I like to very thoroughly wipe the steam wand. And then I also like to very thoroughly purge any remaining cleaning solution from the steam wand. I recommend doing this into a towel so as not to accidentally burn yourself. And there we go. We have a beautiful and clean steam wand. The next thing are our portafilter, our group screen, and our group screw. I typically will find a hand wash sink. I will dump this solution carefully down the sink, making sure to not let that small screw go down the drain. Don't do that. Make sure there's a strainer in the drain so that nothing will accidentally disappear on you. I'll be right back. Welcome back. So I've just dumped the cleaning solution that was in our large vessel, and I very thoroughly rinsed with hot water the items that we were soaking. We have our portafilter and the basket. See how that's very clean? It's exactly right. And then we have our water dispersion screen with no visible coffee oils or residue. And then we also have our group head screw, which is also incredibly clean. So we're just going to set those to the side for a moment. At this point, our group head has been soaking and the Cafeza has been doing its job for a good 5 minutes, which is an appropriate amount of time. So at this point, we are going to activate the group head for 10 seconds. We will then turn it off for 5 seconds. We will reactivate it for 10 seconds, turn it off for 5 seconds, and then reactivate it one more time for another 10 seconds. So once again, 10 seconds on, 5 seconds off. We do that 3 times. One, two, three, 4, 5. One, two, three, 4, 5. Okay. So at this point, there shouldn't be too much cleaning solution left, but you can see there will be some soapy looking water left over, but it looks pretty clean. I don't see any brown left in it, so I don't feel the need to continue the 10 seconds on, 5 seconds off any further than that. If you do find after that period you see a lot of brown liquid still in there, you may want to repeat with some more cleaning solution. You may want to repeat those steps again until the water looks clear. Okay, so we've dumped out our cleaning solution. And we're just going to run this gently until the water doesn't look soapy anymore. Okay. Now I'm going to, without any cleaning solution, re-engage the portafilter. And I'm going to do that same process again without any cleaning solution. We just want to rinse with hot water and make sure we're getting any leftover chemicals out of that. So 10 seconds on, 5 seconds off, 3 times. Three, 4, 5. Two, 3, 4, 5. All right, and that's all there is to it. So we can go ahead and put away our blind portafilter. Okay, at this point, I would generally be wiping things down with Windex, getting rid of any spots, any stains, any splashes. Okay, once I'm satisfied with everything being cleaned, your drip tray can also usually be pulled out and scrubbed manually. Not a bad idea to do that. Clean anything underneath of it that might be dirty and gross. Okay. Now, lastly, before we're done, we're going to reinstall the screw and the dispersion screen. We're going to gently put those back in, finding the center hole, and we are going to start that screw by hand. That's very important. You want to be able to make this screw go around multiple times with your fingers to know that it's threading properly. If you start feeling resistance very quickly before you've even gotten a full rotation, the screw is misaligned. Back it out and realign it and then start screwing it in. You do not want to go in crooked. Okay, this is where we finally come back with our short screwdriver, and we tighten gently with our fingertips until the screw stops, and then we're only going to go boop, just a little bit more. We don't want to have a full-handed grip. We're not twisting on it hard. We're using our fingertips till it stops, and then we're just a little more snug, and that's it. That's all you want to do. Okay, portafilter can go back into the group head. That's where it should be if it's not in use. And generally, even when it is in use, the only time it should come out is to be wiped and have coffee put into it. but this is its home and this is where it should stay. Okay, so once you've completed all of those steps, the machine has been wiped down, the steam wand has been soaked and flushed, and then the group head has been back flushed and rinsed. That's all you really need to worry about. So at this point, that concludes the end of that portion of our video. Hopefully you all feel like the different steps in this video were informative and helpful. I really wanted to create this resource for you to be able to reference on a regular basis and to also have a very easy methodology of training new hires on how to properly clean the equipment. When they have easy access to this information, it's nothing but a good thing, right? So yeah, this was my walkthrough of how to properly clean and close your equipment at the end of shift, or at the end of the day, I should say. You can tell really not too many tools are required to get the job done properly. It just takes the intentionality of doing it. So as long as you and your staff are making sure to accomplish these cleaning protocols at the end of every evening, I'm very confident that your coffee will taste very good, or at least have the best possible chance of tasting good if your staff is dialing in properly. But secondly, it's also going to really, really, really help extend the lifespan or the longevity of your equipment. Clean equipment is happy equipment. So yeah, that's all I got for you on this one, guys. I will see you in the next video.